Hello and welcome back to another video on the JJ Think Tank. In this one, I want to talk about the Warsaw Uprising. I want to share my views on this tragic event in the context of reviewing Norman Davies' book, Rising 44, The Battle for Warsaw. Quite a thick book. Took me a while to read, but it was worth it. Over the past few years, I have this ambition or this goal to know more about Polish history, to understand Poland, to understand this country, to understand its history, and therefore, in order to have my own views on various events in the past, yes, because history is an important discipline. It's an interesting discipline. It's a relevant discipline. I don't agree with a lot of thinkers out there that all of history is fake, that the past is fake, that the past is not important. I think this is nonsense. This is a radical Gnostic view, I think, overall. This worldview, this view of history stems from Gnosticism. And via Gnosticism, history is reinterpreted in crazy ways, really. Everything that we are told apparently is false. History is fake. History is a lie. Look, to a degree, history is distorted. I agree. I think this is true. What's the famous saying? The winners write the history. Yes. So to a degree, this is correct, but there are a lot of historians out there, a lot of interpretations, and there's evidence, archival evidence, primary sources, secondary sources, and therefore the historian is important. This Gnostic worldview shows a lack of respect for historians, and again, this radical Gnostic sophist worldview, it reveals itself as being arrogant and narcissistic, really. These Gnostics, they want to completely subjectivize their experience, and by doing so, they lose touch with objective reality. This is my interpretation. So history is important. We have to read about history. We have to come to our own view about history, because the past shapes the present, and the present will shape the future. And in the world of politics, history is constantly used to shape policy. Definitely, I notice this more and more. A lot of thinkers and even normal people like me, normal citizens, they interpret history in their own way, and sometimes I think a lot of people, they distort history. They are wide off the mark, myself included, probably. I'm not saying that I have a totally accurate picture, but it's interesting how in the discipline of history there are so many interpretations. So which one is correct? I mean, I'll refer here to Poland. In Poland, there are a lot of historians, and they all interpret past events in Poland in a different light. And it leads me to the question: which version is correct? Which version? I'm sure the same is the case in England, in America, etc. The people reflect on their own history in different ways, yes, and this leads to a different political view and a different worldview. But now I'd like to go back to the Warsaw Uprising. I'll stop talking about meta ideas, about meta thinking when it comes to history, and I want to go to the nitty gritty. Yes, I want to talk about an actual event, and this time I will talk about the Warsaw Uprising and whether it was warranted, whether it was justified. I mean, in Poland there are two views really. One view is this one, that it was unjustified, unwarranted, that it was a stupid move. Another example and expression of irrational Polish nationalism and romanticism. We had no chance really against the Germans in this situation. The underground political elite in Poland should have only committed to this uprising if they knew for sure that help was coming, but help didn't come. Now I don't know. I guess there are so many interpretations. Does the blame lie with the Polish people, with the Polish elite, the underground elite, or with the Allies, or with the Soviets? I don't know. I don't want to make Poland into a victim. I don't want to keep spreading this victim mentality that some Polish people have. I mean, well, we were a victim in World War II. I mean, Poland, Belarus, the Slavs. I think we suffered the most in this war. Definitely, by extension, the J group as well. But I think we did a lot. We suffered a lot. But I don't want to. I don't want, as I just said, I don't want to keep pushing this victim complex. I want to also think in terms of taking responsibility. Yes, so perhaps during this event, during this time, when Warsaw was encircled by the Germans, the Poles should have taken responsibility, perhaps, and should have been more patient, perhaps, or I don't know if they could have been patient. Maybe they had to fight against the Germans in this moment in time. I don't know. So, yeah, it's difficult to come to a judgment. Yes. So yes, I mentioned the fact that one view is this, that it was unwarranted, unjustified. The other view is that it was a fight for honor. That Poland, the Polish people, they had to fight the Germans. They had to rebel. It was a matter of honor, respect, and a fight for freedom. It's difficult. And this event is still relevant because it's commemorated every year, and a lot of thinkers, politicians, and Polish citizens they criticize the fact that this is constantly commemorated and that this political move, this military move, we could call it even a military move, was wise. Yes, they criticize this view that it was a wise move. They say, these thinkers and these politicians, they say that by doing this, we are actually celebrating stupidity and to a degree a pathology. So I know Janusz Korwin-Mikke shares this view. He thinks it is absurd that we are making heroes out of this political elite, this underground political elite, and by extension, uh, the people who fought against the Germans. Obviously, Janusz Korwin-Mikke still says that the people who lost their lives are heroes. Obviously, they sacrificed their life. Yes, of course. I mean, people who share this view, they have respect for the Polish citizens who lost their lives. Yes, but still, I don't know. It was never going to be successful, really. I think. And history shows us that it wasn't. Yes. So, but now let's. I'd like to go into my article now and share some of the information that I found in this book. I began my article with this quote, which goes as follows: Herr Moharski, he said, "Don't you agree that the Poles are the world's best schemers? It's in their blood. History has forced us to become a nation of plotters," I admitted. Dialogue between a Pole and a German. Yeah, there is some truth to this. I think it's due to Poland's geographical position. We're kind of hemmed in from all sides. We got the Ruskies on one side. We've got the Germanic brutes on the other side. Then below us, Ukraine as well is suspect. They're always they always seem to have a hatred for us. And then obviously to the north we have Sweden. We've had some wars with Sweden. The deluge was an event in Polish history that is underappreciated in terms of the damage that it did. I mean, this was the Swedish takeover of Poland was full of destruction. So yes. But anyway, going back to my article, I began. I wrote this 2 years ago. Yes, and the romantic in me says yes, that after many years of German destruction and totalitarianism, and with honor, freedom, and dignity still to be defended, it is understandable from a psychological point of view why the Warsaw Uprising took place. Nonetheless, in hindsight and with a range of facts now on offer, from a more pragmatic perspective, the Warsaw Uprising was a pointless endeavour, many would say, that cost an untold number of lives. Now here, reflecting on this paragraph, if Poland didn't uprise, what would have happened? Would the Soviets have eventually liberated the city? With the help of the Allies, or not? I mean, I guess they would have. I mean, the Soviets were well, the Soviets had momentum, yes, because before the Warsaw Uprising, the Soviets defeated Hitler in the famous Battle of Stalingrad and other battles, and they were now chasing and pushing the Germans away, and they wanted, I could say, I think from a psychological point of view, they wanted revenge. They wanted to just defeat the Germans once and for all, put them in their place. And then obviously from the other side, the Allies and America was getting more and more involved in the Second World War. So I think it would. I think all things considered, it would have been liberated anyway. Yes. So maybe the Polish underground army, etc., the Polish political underground elite, all the citizens, etc., Polish citizens, they should have the Poles, yes, they should have waited maybe. They should have. They should have bided their time. You can make this argument, yes. So, but yes, moving on. Overall, this book is well reviewed. I think this book by Norman Davies provides an accurate picture of what happened, why things transpired as they did, uh, why the Warsaw Uprising was initiated. Because the leaders on the ground in Warsaw had information, and they had information which suggested that the Soviets would come to their aid, and that the Allies, principally Great Britain and the USA, would also provide the necessary support and supplies, yes, to make it a success. But ultimately, both of these expectations were not realised. I don't know why. I don't know. Incompetence, or was it premeditated, or just incompetence? That's just reality, or just a natural unfolding of events. Nothing malicious, nothing suspect in, or did the Allies and the Soviets not help on purpose? I don't know. I mean, Norman Davies, I think he shares, well, from what I remember, he shares the view that it was due to political decisions and a breakdown in diplomacy between the supposed Grand Alliance, yes, the Soviets, Soviets, Great Britain, and the USA. So when it comes to diplomacy and the diplomacy that took place around this time, Davies's account reveals once again why diplomacy is so important. It's very important, and if there is good diplomacy, good communication between states, between countries, unnecessary war can be avoided, and in this case, the tragedy of the Warsaw Uprising perhaps could have been avoided. I mean, back then communication was more difficult. Now it's much easier. So this is a positive development. But back then, communication was not as advanced as it is now, and therefore Stalin was not hard pressed enough on certain demands, and there was perhaps a lack of urgency on the Allies in order to organise a plan of action. I mean, we could make this argument as well. So, yes. But judging from what I've read, and also from the views I have heard from other people, other thinkers, it does seem that Stalin, he cynically and callously decided to wait. Stalin, he could have ordered the Soviet army to clear the Germans, in Warsaw. I think he could have, but I think he decided to wait. He wanted the Poles to suffer, because then the Soviets could take over Poland, a weakened Poland, and set up their Soviet structure. Yes, so I think this is true, and I've heard this from. I heard this view recently. This opinion from a Belarusian that I met. Well, he had Russian and Belarusian blood. I think he was yes. I met him in London. I taught him English. I was teaching him English, and he shared this view. I didn't even bring up the topic of the Warsaw Uprising. It's during the lesson. This topic spontaneously appeared during our discussion, and he shared this view that Stalin waited. That he could have ordered help for the Poles, but he didn't do this. So, well, and in Norman Davies' book, Norman argues that Stalin diverted his attention to the Balkans and other areas for strictly political reasons. So, yeah. And when it comes to this issue, it's important also to recollect that only a few weeks earlier, Radio Moscow was calling for the Polish people to rise up in arms in June and July to defeat the Hitlerites. So on the one hand, Moscow was telling Poland to fight, but then they didn't come to Poland's aid. Yes, tricksters. And yes, another way that Poland was let down is revealed when Premier Mikołajczyk travelled with Churchill and his entourage for talks in Moscow, only to discover that he was conned into believing that the Curzon line could be amended to bring Lvov into Poland's orbit. So yes, Lvov is a Polish city, and because of this decision, to this day, it doesn't remain in Polish hands. Yes, it's now a Ukrainian city. Well, it was a Soviet city. It was Sovietized. And then it fell into Ukrainian hands once Ukraine achieved independence. So that was another way in which Poland was tricked. Yes. Anyway, moving on. The events of the Rising itself, they bring a lot of sadness. I watched a film recently about the Warsaw Uprising, a Polish film. I didn't watch all of it. I think only the first half an hour. I didn't want to watch more of this film, to be honest. It's quite an emotional film for Poles, for myself as well, obviously. Yes, a lot of obviously destruction, misery, pain, and even after the surrender of the Home Army, the city was razed to the ground by the Germans in an act of gleeful destruction. The Germanic brutes, sometimes they just love to destroy. This is the problem with the Germans. If they are not put in their place, if there aren't checks and balances on these Germanic brutes, then they just would like to destroy and dominate. Now they are doing the same. They have won they have won the peace, we could argue, by spreading the EU and enforcing its policies via the EU. Yes, and I read some information recently, and I've seen a couple of YouTube videos. I didn't watch them, but I might watch them soon. About how Germany was able to form a small empire in Latin America, apparently. And I guess when I think about this, it does make sense, because a lot of Germans, I think, they emigrated to Latin America, right? Uruguay, etc., all these countries. We've got this Mercosur agreement, which is an agreement between Latin America and Europe when it comes to agriculture. So who knows? Who knows who is behind all this? This Mercosur and everything. It seems like the Germans are. So anyway, moving on. Many other anecdotes are included in this book. The famous one being about Władysław Szpilman, who is the chief character in the film The Pianist, a brilliant film. Alongside other stories of bravery and heroism in the guerrilla-like environment. So yes, the Warsaw Uprising, this was a guerrilla war between the Poles and the Germans, yes. And what's crazy? What was crazy to read about it during um, during this book, during my consumption of this book, was how Stalin was extremely paranoid. He deemed everything not Soviet to be in secret cahoots with the Nazis. This paranoia of Stalin was shocking. How was Poland in cahoots with the Nazis? I mean, perhaps initially before the outbreak of the war, Pilsudski he had this pact with the Nazis, yes, non-aggression pact. But then it was broken, yes. I don't know why. I don't know what happened. I don't know much about this period of time, so I can't comment. But thereafter, Poland was definitely an enemy of Germany. I mean, a lot of Poles they argue that Germany has always been our biggest enemy, has always been the biggest threat. On the one hand, yes, Germans they bring progress, but then they start to overtake our sovereignty. So this paranoia of Stalinism, this paranoia of Stalin was ridiculous, really. I don't know if this event is well known in the West. Is it talked about? Probably not really. Probably the ghetto uprising is probably more well known. But this took place a year before, 1943. The Warsaw Uprising took place in 1944. So yes, I mean, I think I'd like to now come to a conclusion. Yes, was the Warsaw Uprising warranted? I mean, at the time, 2 years ago, I said yes. If we put ourselves in the shoes of the underground army, of the underground political elite, and the Poles who were trapped in Warsaw, then based on the information that they had at the time, you can understand perhaps why they did start fighting. They were sure that the Soviet support would arrive. They were pretty sure that the Allies would somehow come to an agreement and would also provide some support, but it didn't happen. So, from this point of view, it was justified. Yes, I think. But if now this is the key point. If they weren't sure, say if they were even 90% sure, then they should have still. Perhaps they should have waited. They shouldn't. They should have just chilled. I don't know if this would have been possible, but it's obviously it's easy for me to comment. I'm sitting here in my comfortable little apartment. Yes, I mean I wasn't. I'm not currently surrounded by devastation. Yes, by a lack of food and water, etc. So yeah. So I guess here I would say that if Soviet support was guaranteed beforehand via effective diplomacy and the rising launched perhaps a bit later, maybe the Germans would have been crushed. Who knows? I don't know. It's all speculation, really. It's hard to come to a conclusion. I mean, the Poles definitely they wanted to cooperate with the Soviets. I mean, this paranoia of Stalin was messed up. Yes, I mean, Poland wanted to enter a temporary alliance with the Soviets. So I mean, even beforehand, Poland was in some ways allied with the Soviet Union during the Second World War. So and So yes, to end my video, I don't want to talk too long about this. I know this is a bit of a long video. Perhaps I used too many words to discuss the issue. Perhaps I didn't, perform as well as I should have. I could have been more succinct and to the point. But I like to end my video now with this quote by Okolitsky. So Okolitsky, the Bear Cub, General Leopold Okolitsky, one of the leaders at the time, and one of his last words during the staged show trial that took place in Moscow was this. The Warsaw Uprising, he insisted, was not a political adventure. It was necessary and heroic. Finally, he said yes to Polish-Soviet friendship, but no to enslavement. So this is that eternal conflict between Poles and Russians, I think. I mean, Poland they'd like to definitely come to an arrangement with Russia, even now as well, and in general in the past, I'm sure. But sometimes it seems like the Russians, the Soviets, they just perhaps they kind of like the Germans, they just want to dominate, yes, just want to enslave, yes, no sense of moderation. So. Obviously, Poland and a lot of Polish people, they have this irrational Russophobia, so the blame also lies on our side. And this is a picture of how Warsaw looks now to how it looked in the past, yes. Anyway, that's the end of the video. Once again, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this video. Serious topic. If you're still listening now, I really appreciate it. You could have spent your time elsewhere, but you decided to hang around and listen to what I have to say. If you are a new viewer, consider liking and subscribing. It will help me grow the channel and spread more information. But yes, once again, thank you for listening, and I wish you all the best. Take care.